Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's Commanders Countdown. Recapping a win over Green Bay, 21 to
Yeah,
23. Taylor Heineke's first game back
big win,
since last
big
year.
time win for sure.
Yeah, definitely glad to see him get the victory for us. Green Bay hasn't been as good as they've been in the past, but getting the win either way still feels good. I think we looked a lot better than the previous week.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, obviously back-to-back wins for the first time this year, which was big, but a lot cleaner of a victory.
Yeah,
Obviously, it
yeah,
wasn't always pretty, but often games aren't. You know, there's very rarely that you play a flawless football game.
yeah.
But I mean, they got the win, and that's really what matters. I mean, 3-4 now, coming off two straight wins. Got the
hmm
Indianapolis Colts this week, which is again is a very winnable game, especially in the midst of their quarterback turmoil. Which we'll get more into that game here in a little bit. But I mean, good things happening for the Commanders right now. Definitely,
Yeah, I
I'd
saw
say
that we could move up to the seventh seed if like a couple things happen. If we win
okay.
and like some other Giants or something, I forget what the other two were, but yeah, I guess we're a possibility to be the seventh seed, which I did not realize that at all.
Yeah, I mean,
I
still
kind
a
of
lot of football left with 10 weeks, but yeah, I mean
yeah,
that's definitely encouraging. You gotta be in it to have a chance.
right.
And obviously, teams like the Lions and the Texans with their 1 wins, not looking too good at this point. Um,
You know what's
so
funny
yeah,
about that? There's those teams with one or two wins that have looked worse than the Commanders. And I saw some power rankings the other day, and I think we're at 30th, and there's
I
like
saw. Yeah, I
five
saw
or
that
six
with them.
teams with worse records above us, and I'm like, all right, well,
I did see that. I have that too. So we'll post that because I was going to mention that as well. I was like, that's a little bit weird.
yeah,
Um, but definitely, I mean, that's how much stock you put in those power rankings. I mean, those things are depending on where you're getting them from, sometimes less than accurate. But yeah, I
yeah.
mean, the uh, the game was pretty solid. I mean, as far as I mean, you guys held Aaron Rodgers under 200 yards passing. He was 23 of 35. So good completion percentage. Good completion percentage as A Rod's always going to have. Two
hmm
touchdowns, no picks. You guys didn't get to him at all, which you guys had 10 sacks in the
Yeah,
previous 2 games.
that's one thing I
But
was disappointed not a single sack on him when with 10. Like you said, it's like, come on, at least get him once or twice.
yeah. I mean, we had the same kind of situation with Mahomes. We came in second in the league, and we got Mahomes once. It's like, come on, man, we can't get him. And Mahomes is the kind of guy you got to knock around a little bit,
Yeah,
and we didn't. So, that being said, Taylor on the other side, slightly better performance as far as the passing yards, 20 of 33, 201, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He was sacked 1 time, which, considering Carson was tied for the most sacks taken in the league, that's a lot better. Obviously, he gives a certain elusiveness in the pocket and the ability to just move around and create
right.
space and extend plays, which is something that Carson obviously wasn't demonstrating. So obviously made things easier on the offensive line, only giving up the 1 sack.
Yeah, I really
For the
expected the
second straight,
offensive line to continue to look better under Taylor because his mobility just gives them a lot more opportunities there to keep things going.
yeah,
They
yeah, because they were
rolling
playing
out to the
pretty well
right.
last year.
Yeah,
Granted, this is a slightly different group. I mean, you got Andrew Norwell, you got like the Flowers thing happen. So, I mean, there's been some transition, some addition and some loss there. So there's different, and obviously the center, you don't have Roulier anymore. You guys are on your
yeah.
third center, um, which isn't ideal, but
No,
hopefully Roulier can get back here in a little bit. Um, as far as the run game, for the second straight week, I mean, Green Bay came into this season really wanting to be more of a run team. And for the second straight week, they just didn't run the football well at all. I mean, after coming off a 60 rushing yard performance last week, they ended up running for, let's see, what are the stats? Oh, wow, 12 carries for 38 yards, 3.2 yard average. Aaron Jones had 8 for 23. A.J. Dillon, 4 for 15. And those are both good players. I mean, you got to give them the ball more than that. I mean, they didn't even really have a chance to get going. On the other side of that, I think Washington, I mean, you guys had your best rushing game of the season to that point last week, I think, when you guys ran for 128. Well, you topped that this week with 38 carries for 166. So
yeah.
definitely got it done on the ground against Green Bay. So that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's nice to see that because I mean Taylor will probably need some help. I mean he can't do everything. He's not the greatest throwing quarterback and all that. So to have the run game there to help, I think if the run game's strong with Taylor, what his abilities are, it'll work well and we can actually win some games.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and they kind of mixed in. It was mainly Robinson and Gibson. Robinson had 20 for 73, so his most rushing yards in the game so far. Gibson had 10 carries for 59. Curtis Samuel out of the backfield doing his Debo Samuel impression, getting 5 carries for 26 yards. McKissick 1 for 4, and then Taylor 2 for 4. So Taylor didn't even really need to run around much. Obviously.
Yeah.
Mainly stayed in the pocket and threw. Just had to extend on a few plays there. But definitely a good sign there. I mean, the Colts have a pretty good defensive line as well. Obviously, they've got our old defensive tackle, DeForest Buckner, in the middle of that defensive line, who's really good at stopping the run. But, I mean, I think that the two-headed running back attack's working. I've seen rumors where they were talking about how they might move Gibson. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like that move. I think that using the two of them is really dynamic, and especially if you can have like Robinson in the backfield and split Gibson out wide as a wide receiver because he used to be one,
Right.
and he's really he's a great receiver. I mean, I think that's just a dangerous combination, as well as J.D. McKissick. I mean, if it's me and I'm running the team, which I'm obviously not, I would keep them both.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. They're using Robinson almost twice as much as Gibson, at least in this game. So he's getting
Yeah.
the majority of the starts.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they liked Robinson from the preseason. I think that, prior to him getting, the carjacking situation and, getting shot those 2 times, he was in line to be the lead back. And obviously, and it could play a few things. I mean, maybe Gibson's still a little bit in the doghouse for previous fumble issues. That could always be a factor. But it seems like every time Gibson gets the ball, he's averaging about twice as many yards as
Yeah.
Robinson. So he's very explosive. But, I mean, maybe that explosivity is because you're not giving them all one workload. I mean, that's always the argument. It's like maybe if you're giving one guy 30 carries, maybe, they're not, maybe neither of them are popping for the big runs like that. So, but it's working right now. The combination is working for Scott Turner and Washington. So, I mean, I'd look for them to keep doing it.
Yeah, hopefully we can keep doing this kind of stuff in the Indianapolis game. We definitely get our 3rd win in a row. I hope Taylor gets another 4-game win streak, or maybe more. But shit, at least just to get another 4-game like last season would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember he went on that run, and then I've also seen something that Taylor's now beaten. I think it's either 3 or 4 former MVPs. He's got Matt Ryan, he's got
Tom Brady,
Aaron Rodgers now, and I'm trying to think, did he get one other one? I'll have to look it up. It's either 3 or 4, but of the wins that he has in the NFL, he's beaten some big names, so pretty good there. And also we saw more of Terry, worth mentioning. I mean, Terry had a really good year last year with Taylor, and there's no doubt that I think Taylor has better chemistry with Terry than Carson did. Obviously,
100%.
Yeah,
you can see a big difference once Taylor's been back, and you can see now that Terry's actually getting targeted more, and which is nice to see. I mean, we all know what he can do, and him and Curtis Samuel together. I always knew if Curtis Samuel actually was healthy and could do what he was supposed to do, it would be a big threat.
Yeah,
really
well,
glad
he
to
was
see
great
the
in
two of them.
Carolina. I mean, I remember seeing what he could do there for Ron in Carolina, and I mean, he was a real dynamic player. Kind of like our Debo. He's just a little smaller than Debo's, just thicker, but he's a little shorter, maybe a little quicker, but he's definitely an explosive player, and I like how they've been using him out of the backfield as well. Gives them another dynamic. But yeah, I mean, Terry, he had 3 catches for 41 in Carson's last game, and then he had 5 for 73 and a touchdown on 8 targets. In this game, Curtis had 5 for 53. There was no Logan Thomas, or I just want to give this guy some props real quick. Logan Thomas missed his 3rd straight game. John Bates was also out, so who's going to step in at tight end? It was Mr. Armani Rogers, the rookie, and he stepped up pretty big. Armani Rogers had, I think it was, 3 for 28? Yeah, 3 for 28, along with 17. So really getting his most extensive game action of the season. stepped
Every
up
time
pretty
he was
well.
targeted, 3 times. He caught the ball 3 times. You love to see that. No drop
That's
passes.
better than Cole Turner, who also played the rookie, who had 2 targets and didn't bring in
0
either one of them.
catches. Yeah.
Yeah, but Cole Turner, I mean, he had a good game a couple weeks ago. He had that long reception of 18 yards, so he's done some good things as well. But obviously, he's still a work in progress.
Yeah, and you got both our running backs, Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson, both catching some passes.
Yep.
Gibson was 3 for 18, Robinson 2 for 13. So,
and then did they get McKissick involved in the?
he was targeted twice, but he did not catch anything.
Wow,
which is surprising.
Only he didn't do much. He didn't do much
Nope.
in the game. He had 1 carry for 4 yards. Well, he'll be fresh for this week, so that'll be good. I mean, I'll never forget that touchdown he scored last year against Atlanta. Remember that when he took it like up the sideline? Yeah, that was pretty slick. And then the last couple things to talk about here. Obviously, on the defensive side, we mentioned no sacks. Cole Holcomb did lead the charge with 9 tackles. He's been the leading Washington tackler all season. I believe he's like 6th
I think
in the
every
league.
single game, just about he's been the leading tackler.
Yeah, other than this Sunday's, which will be kind of the segue into this. Unfortunately, he is going to miss his first game of the season with a foot injury. He's been ruled out. Do you know who they're giving the start to? Is it going to be Davis or Bostic or maybe Mayo?
I heard it's going to be a mix of they're going to use Jamin apparently in 2 different positions, but with Bostic and Mayo also.
Okay.
I saw something about him being used in different ways, so we'll see how that goes. I'm definitely nervous about Cole Holcomb not being out there. He's definitely been one of our strongest defensive players.
Absolutely. And I like Jamin Davis this season as a pass rusher. He's been real good.
Definitely.
I mean, we're gonna see how he holds up at middle linebacker. I mean, he's got 3 sacks on the season. So he's definitely playing better than he was last year. We'll see what he can do at the middle backer spot. But that's going to be interesting. Obviously, Cole Holcomb often criticized, but I don't think there's anybody on the team as good as him to fill in. So hopefully there's not a significant drop off. And then the last thing we'll just talk about on the defense, in the event that he is traded, and this is his last game against Indianapolis, there's been a lot of rumblings, in addition to the fact that Antonio Gibson might be traded, that Deron Payne could also be traded. There's been speculation that he could be traded for a day 2, maybe a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick. What are your thoughts on that?
I know that I heard that Gibson, I think Rivera made a statement about him that they're not going to accept any offers on him. I don't think I've seen the same thing about Deron Payne, so I take that as it could be more possible.
Okay.
If with Chase coming back, to maybe trade him for something might be worth it, but I don't know about like draft picks. If we could get a player in a position that we need, maybe that might be more worth it in my opinion, because the draft pick is, you never really know what you're going to get. It's a gamble. You might get something really good out of it, but you might not. So.
And I mean, Payne's been a pretty consistent player. I mean, former 1st round pick out of Alabama. He's got 18 career sacks. So he's been a good player for you guys for a few seasons. But I mean, I think it would depend on what you guys were able to get for him and what the team needs were at that point. I mean, obviously at this point, the defense is kind of just starting to come into their groove. And you almost wonder, if you take a piece away from that, if there's going to be any drop off. I mean, Chase is coming back, but obviously Payne plays more in the interior with John Allen.
Right.
So you've still got Fedarian Mathis, who could come back next season and be great, but he's going to be out the rest of this year. You've got Effie Obata, who's been stepping up. So they've got other players in there. But yeah, I mean, I think, the haul would have to be pretty good to move him, because I mean, just to move him for a 2nd or 3rd pick, like I told you, or 2nd or 3rd round pick, personally, I don't like it. I mean, I think he's too good of a player to just let go for that. Now, if you could get multiple picks, like let's say maybe a 2nd and a 4th,
2nd and or 4, okay, yeah, that
or a 2nd and a 3rd, 2nd and a 3rd would obviously be better,
right.
I mean, if you can do that, then I mean, it makes it a little bit more tempting. Or I mean, certainly if you could get a 1st. I mean, if you get a 1st for him, then I think that makes the deal all that more enticing, especially if you can scrap him to a to a good team like the Lions or something that you know are going to be finishing towards the top of the draft order and maybe scope their pick.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, obviously there was a lot of rumblings that he was going to be on his way out last year after the sideline situation with his boy, and brother in arms, John Allen. And obviously that was water under the bridge. They squashed that pretty quick, and that ended up being nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, it got blown up into something that really shouldn't have been.
And we've seen so many NFL sideline situations between Antonio Brown, that one, the Robbie Anderson with the Panthers getting walked off a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, sidelines on the NFL on an NFL sideline are a pop in place, a lot of activity.
Yeah, a lot of energy out there. I mean, shit, it gets heated.
Absolutely, a lot of alpha male energy out there for sure. And I guess real quickly before we close it out, you want to just talk about the Colts real quick as the opponent, and then we'll close it out.
Yeah, I mean, we got the Colts coming up. Luckily, they're starting Sam Ehlinger, so it should be a bit of an easier game, I guess, than Matt Ryan.
They put Matty on ice. You see what I did there with his nickname? Put Matty on ice for the season.
It's kind of shocking that they did that. I know he also has an injury, and I think that does play a part in maybe the timing. But I know that they specifically said that even if he wasn't injured, he still would have been benched. And I think he's number 5 in passing yards this season.
Yeah, this is a financial move 100%. But I've been telling everybody about this. Yeah. His contract is like 70% incentive based for that $12 million or whatever he's making. So he's got to play. I think it's X amount of the snaps. I remember we talked about it on an earlier show. I think last year. Mm-hmm. Where he's got to play I think 70% of the snaps.
I know Carson's is 70%. I know Carson's is 70%. His contract's a lot like his, so they're very similar.
Right.
I mean, Carson's getting paid more, but it's based on how much for the draft picks, at least in Carson's case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how does this make Jim Irsay look? Because he let Carson go. I mean, I guess right now they're both injured, so really it's kind of a toss up. But
it'll be surprising to see if they bring Wentz back once he's healthy. I mean, if Taylor wins enough games, there might be some thinking that maybe keep him.
It'd be hard. Yeah, it'd be hard to argue against putting him back in there. I mean, obviously Carson's the one making all that money, but if Taylor gets you on a 4 or 5 game winning streak, you're really going to sit him back down?
Yeah, right. If we win the next 2-3 games and Wentz is supposed to come back, it's really you're going to bench Taylor after that? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
and then also
the Cooper Rush argument.
If Carson doesn't play as much, it's only a 3rd round pick that it costs us versus a 2nd.
Right.
I think that's
so
how it
then
works.
Maybe Ron will get sneaky with it and be like, you know what? Okay, well, I'll be like, all right, Carson. Well, we're just not putting you back in there, buddy. It's gonna be all right. Taylor's gonna start the rest of the season. But yeah, I mean that's what happened to Matt Ryan. He was 3-3-1. So they were only 1 game back. So it wasn't like they weren't competitive. And I mean, he was throwing the ball more than anybody in the league. It seemed like every week he was chucking the ball more than 50 times. Just about. At least over 40. But, yeah, man, I mean, maybe with the rookie they'll get Jonathan Taylor more involved because, like I said, he's had weeks where he's had 8, 10, 12 carries, which is just it's an abomination to only give John Taylor that many carries. I mean, he was the NFL's leading rusher last year. So that's just not using your personnel well at all. And Frank Reich's on the hot seat. I mean, he's another name on the hot seat for head coaches. So he's got to do something. I'm kind of surprised they didn't go with Nick Foles, but they're going with Sam Ehlinger. Nick Foles will be the number 2. And I guess Matty Ryan's demoted. I mean, he's got a separated shoulder too. So, I mean, he wouldn't be playing anyway this week. But, Matt Ryan, currently the 3rd string quarterback in Indianapolis. Okay. Yeah. So, hopefully you guys are able to get a big time win against the Colts this week. Join us next week and we'll recap it as well as any new Commander related news for the week.
Get that 3rd game win streak.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us.